when it comes to parenting, many Americans consider the talk to be about the birds and the bees. But for many families of color, it's a sobering conversation about the threat of racism. And now there's The Other Talk. It's a new book sparking conversations about white privilege. We caught up with author Brendan Kiely in today's DBL Spotlight. Brendan Kiely, welcome to DBL. So racism and the idea of white privilege, we talk about it a lot, but it can be really uncomfortable to talk about. But it's an important conversation that we really look forward to having with you. Now, your book is called The Other Talk, Reckoning with Our White Privilege. I want to know what inspired you to write this.
So many of my friends of color, so many of my friends who are black or indigenous have grown up having the talk. I think a lot of people are now pretty aware of what that's about, but it's about navigating racism in America or surviving racism in America. And as a white kid growing up in Massachusetts, my parents certainly talked to me about racism, but it was always about what was happening to other people. It wasn't a reflection for me or a self-analysis about my own racial identity and how that impacted my life and the lives of others around me. So what inspired the book was, what would that look like to create that other talk, to help white families like my own to want to be more self-aware, to want to listen more, learn more, and hopefully feel motivated to get involved with the groups that have been working for racial justice for so long already in our communities.
Wow. Well, my question is, how did you first become aware of the talk, the original talk, that black families have to have with, our children about racism? Because I'm sure that was kind of like a strange moment where you're like, what, people have to sit down and talk about this?
A number of years ago, the author Jason Reynolds and I were traveling the country together. Jason Reynolds is a black man, I'm a white man. We were traveling the country together talking about two different books that we had written. And it was shortly after the verdict in which George Zimmerman was acquitted in the murder trial of Trayvon Martin. Jason's mother, a black woman from South Carolina, called her son to say, Jason, I'm terrified for your life. I'm terrified there might be a George Zimmerman out there for you while you're traveling this country. And my mother didn't call me, right? And I love my mother loves me, and but it would never occur to her to have that same kind of fear. That distinction right there is exactly what we're talking about when we reference what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in 1968, when he spoke about two Americas living side by side. Jason went on to tell me in our travels about the kinds of talks that he had with his mother growing up, the talk. And it made me very conscious about the talk that I didn't have.
Brendan, I certainly appreciate that. What is the conversation that you feel that white families should be having about race and privilege?
The talk about how I wasn't made to reflect on what was my America in that scenario of two Americas. What was it like for me to interact with the world with the advantages that come with, as we call it, white privilege? That's stuff for me to wrestle with and for me to be aware of and to have a language to describe, so that if I want to help participate in all the action that's out there to try to help make the world fairer and more just, I need the language to talk about what my role is in that and what my life is like in the context of all of this. If I had the language for that, I might have been able to do more and participate more in breaking that down, even at a younger age. So for me, that's the model for The Other Talk, is that families, I don't claim to be an expert, I claim to be a fallible human being. And I think by sharing very honestly, moments from my own life where I wish I had known more, that's what I can do with my own son.
So important. All right, Brendan, thank you so much for joining us. DBL Nation, I'm looking straight at you right now. Pick up a copy of this book. It's The Other Talk, Reckoning with Our White Privilege, where all books are sold, or visit simonandschuster.com. Thank you for giving us the language. We'll be right back. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you so much. Thank you.